Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, Trevor?
What is going on? Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the very recently announced Pokemon Gen 9 stuff, Scarlet and Violet, along with their starters. We're going to be talking Cameron's thoughts on Elden Ring, preliminary thoughts, and then both of our thoughts on Horizon Forbidden West. But before we hop into any of that, a little bit of housekeeping for you. Go check out That Bond Show on YouTube Saturdays. Every Saturday we upload a new episode on youtube.com/thatnerdysite, where Logan and I are going through all the Bond movies. We've got like a few of them basically recorded in advance, and yesterday we sat down with special guest Jarrett Green to talk about For Your Eyes Only. So that's coming in the near future, so stay tuned for that. As of now, we're basically up through Man with the Golden Gun, I believe is the last episode that went live.
Yeah.
So go check that one out. That is a bad movie, but Christopher Lee's cool.
Dude, does he not have the coolest car, though?
The Lotus?
Yeah.
That's the one with the Lotus, right? Yeah, it was cool.
When you say the Lotus, are you referring to the plane jet submarine car?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes, 100%.
You're talking Scaramanga's car.
Yeah, Scaramanga's car.
Scaramanga's car, not a submarine. It's just it is a car. Like it is almost like a Buick that gets like plane wings attached to it, and then it goes flying off. Yeah, I guess that was okay. I guess what I'm thinking of is the submarine car. I believe that's the next movie. I believe that's in.
Yeah.
What was that one? The Spy Who Loved Me. I think
so. I think I'm conflating like all.
Yeah, you're combining some of the Roger Moore era cars.
It's fine. As a kid, like that was like when The Man with the Golden Gun, terrible movie, but as a kid, like Christopher Lee's villain is just like outstanding, like just like incredible, and like he's this charismatic guy, and he has a gun that's like built like one bullet will kill you, guarantee, and it's the Golden Gun. And then on top of that, it's also like he has like the coolest car because it's just like, oh, you think you've got me? Nope, it's a plane now.
Yeah,
and it flies.
It's fascinating because the one bullet isn't like that's not a trademark of the gun. That is him because he's a master assassin.
Yeah,
and it just became like in GoldenEye, it was the Golden Gun is a one-shot kill. So I think that's a more fascinating element of like, oh, I had been built up
what happened
by the Golden Gun based on the GoldenEye movie, and so like seeing it in the actual movie, it was like that looks dumb as hell.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, it was a wild movie. In addition to that, you can go check out Cameron's regular series Friday Night Dying Light every Friday evening on YouTube, as Cameron continues to play through his adventures of Dying Light 2. And I believe
this latest episode was the aftermath after the hospital. Episode 3, warning, it gets pretty spooky.
I'm gonna take your word for it. I have not been able to watch any of the ones since episode 1 because they've come in so late and so hot that it's basically like, you send it over, I got to get it uploaded. So
yeah, I'm working on doing better on that.
Yeah.
To be fair, like normally it's like I just forget to like upload and send it to you.
Yeah.
This week it was not the case.
This week it was exactly that because we were distracted by other things. We're both of us. Like I wasn't regularly hammering you because I was playing Horizon Forbidden West, and you weren't working on it because you were playing Horizon Forbidden West and then Elden Ring. So
yeah.
And then the last thing I want to give a shout out to here in housekeeping is Jazz helped make a game. It is a dice game with a retro arcade theme called Retrograde. Her company Resonim is making it, and it is out on Kickstarter now. First game she's actually worked on. She's very excited for it. You can find a link to the Kickstarter in the description below. It's past halfway funding, past the 50% mark. So shout out to Jazz, and go check out that game if you are so interested. And then lastly, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So without further ado, Cam, let us talk about Pokemon Gen 9. You wanted to hop in and dive into a little bit of discussion on this because you are obsessed with one of the little new Pokemon characters.
Well, to be fair,
I was
I'm obsessed with all three
online
of
when
them.
oh, okay. I was online when this was like popping off this morning, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a new Pokemon thing. I'm kind of past caring about Pokemon largely, but you were immediately like, we should talk about Weed Cat. So go ahead, Cam. Let's talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, like I just barely watched the trailer.
Yeah,
before
we
we started
both
recording.
watched the trailer like right before we started recording.
So yeah, I have to say, like, I'm actually really liking the designs for all three of the new starters. I think that something that Gen 7, like the Alolan era, was kind of lacking was, and I think it's something that a lot of like starter Pokemon for the last couple generations have been lacking up until Gen 8. This last generation was like some really like iconically good look, like the all, I would say less so on the water Pokemon from last generation, although some people will disagree with me. I think
That was the sniper one, right? That you were super hot on?
I was not super hot.
Oh, that was the one you hated. Okay.
Yeah, no, that one I still like to this day think is just like a super weird dumb Pokemon.
Wait, like Gen 7 had the Lit Kitty. Like I remember that one being a meme.
Like memeable for sure.
And the clown seal? Yeah. These were like I think you're just like,
I know, to be fair, like Gen 6 and Gen 7 I'm super weak on because I didn't own a 3DS.
Yeah.
But as far as, so I was on the outside looking in, and then I hopped back in. But like, you want to talk about Grookey, you want to talk about, Score Bunny, you want to talk about
that's like, again, you like, these are the ones because you hopped in and played those
fair.
ones again. You have a better
I
feel
know,
for them.
I'm really loving the design for all three of these Pokemon. I think that they're super unique. Very like Sprigatito, who is Sprigatito, thank you.
Little Sprig.
Little Sprig, I love that. Sprigatito is like very like just like super. I love the description on it is the capricious, attention-seeking grass cat Pokemon. I like that. It definitely comes across as like a very like bubbly, happy, cheerful, like very energetic Pokemon. Reminds me a lot of how Grookey came across in the last gen as well. Just like very, and I'm curious because this one was like the reveal for these Pokemon was a static reveal. We only got to see images, and like it's unfair because Gen 8's reveal literally had the Pokemon's like personalities on like display in the video. But I really love Sprigatito's just kind of like energetic, fun, kind of peppy, just kind of like attitude that's right there in the design.
Mm-hmm.
Quaxley, who has like stolen some hearts, and then like some people, like one person I saw said, "You can't convince me the new duck Pokemon is not a cop." It's just like yeah. I don't know where exactly that came from.
It definitely looks at, like, obviously I know it's been getting a lot of comparisons to Donald Duck, obviously, but it like when I first saw it, I was like, that looks like a duck out of DuckTales. Not yes, Donald right? necessarily, but like it looks like the new DuckTales animation style. And I was like, what is that? Yeah. And I'll be curious because, like, obviously one of the things we talked about before we started recording is all of these have Spanish influenced names, as well as obviously the aesthetic of the new game seems to be heavily influenced by Spain. So Quaxley like makes sense to tie it into like the duck, but like the QA in Spanish would be just a ka, so it should like theoretically be Caxley. Or Coxley.
I think it probably is Coxley. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
is unfortunate.
I think they're gonna fudge it because it's a duck that would say quack, and so I think it'll be Quaxley, and I think that's I think that will be like the normal nomenclature for it, but I'm just
Because
like,
they don't want, also they
if
don't want a Pokemon with the name
yeah. But yeah,
Coxley.
with Fuecoco and Sprigatito, like theoretically, I think that's how it would be pronounced. But whatever. People are it's a cute duck Pokemon that apparently some people
Well,
think is a
also,
cop.
are we thinking, because this is another thing that's super interesting about the Spanish language is that the way they speak Spanish in Spain has a lot of different rules than they do in Latin American countries. So we're super familiar with like Mexican Spanish, like
Hmm.
Latin American Spanish. So it's entirely possible that there's a rule about Quaxley where like the QU might have a different rule in Spain, similar to the
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking
yeah.
of like Quetzalcoatl or
Mm-hmm.
K or Yokiro. Like it's like the QU typically doesn't have the W that we put into it in
In English.
English. Um, and I think that's I would think it's universal across, because I feel like when I was learning Spanish in high school, I was learning Spain Spanish, not Mexican Spanish.
We likely actually probably would have still learned like Latin American Spanish rules because the unique rules in Spain, for example, when you spoke Spanish, did you use like the give the th sound to like double s's and stuff?
That sounds right. Maybe I don't remember.
There,
It has
yeah.
been 20 years since I took a Spanish class. Like yeah, like
Oh no, no, sorry, not double
locally and
s,
no
double c.
and
Did you ever when you
Barcelona.
say
Well,
when
yeah.
you say Barcelona, did you say Barcelona?
Yes, yeah, we did. I think
Oh,
that
geez,
was
okay.
like largely Senor Rodriguez playing it up, but yes, that was certainly how he did it.
Did you pronounce other words with that same word like
I mean,
verbiage
maybe I don't
with
know.
the
We don't need to dive down a rabbit hole of how we learn Spanish on this podcast.
I think that says a
Especially
lot
again,
that
it's
somebody who
been
learned Spanish
20
in Mesa versus
years.
somebody who's learned Spanish in Scottsdale.
That's
I'm just
also
putting that out there.
incredibly true. um, yes, Senior Bailey was more of a Santa Claus figure than, and Senor Rodriguez touted himself as a matador, but I was like, really? I don't think so, dude. Yeah. But yes, that was again legitimately 20 years ago for me.
That's fair.
So
That's totally fair.
it has been quite a while since I've actually taken a Spanish class. But yes, Spain
Oh
influence for these
yes,
games.
for sure. Hmm.
Cute grass cat, laid back fire croc, and then an earnest and tidy duckling Pokemon. Yeah, I get why people think that's a cop.
Hmm. Also, because you could totally see that hat, like the hat, like the pompadour hair,
Mm-hmm.
turn into like a police cap. Like you could see that happening, or like
Sure.
a military cap. Oh my gosh! Please don't tell me this is going to turn out
Oh,
to be a fascist
it's a
duck.
beret.
It's a beret. It turns out to be like what was his name? He was the like dictator in Spain after World War II. The U.S.
Uh,
backed him. It
I
was like
I don't know
it was terrible.
I didn't know the Spanish one. I immediately think of Mussolini in that era, but I know that is not Spain.
That's Italy
Yeah.
pre World War II, during World War II. Post World War II was like I'm forgetting his name because I'm the first name that pops in my head is Batista, but that's Cuba. That's the Cuban dictator that we support. No, but anyway, I'm like, please don't turn this into a fascist duck though, because that would suck. Um, cross our fingers that doesn't happen. But
Oh,
on the
Francisco
brighter,
Franco? No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like if they make him look like
Yeah, I guess yeah, Francisco Franco.
Francisco Franco, if they make if they turn this duck into Francisco Franco, that's going to be real bad. Duck's going to get canceled real quick.
Anyway, other
But
any other thoughts here on Pokemon? You're
my
excited for
first
it?
thought, my final thought is, and this is kind of like interesting, is like normally I'm not a fire starter guy. Like that's just not my deal. Um, Normally I kind of weigh in more on the grass or water type. But I'm not gonna lie. If you look, I'm looking at the kind of breakdown on these Pokemon. They're all like Quaxley's a little bit taller at 1.8 versus the other two at 1.4. However, weight wise, Sprigatito, little Sprig, literally coming in at only 9 pounds. Quaxley coming in at 13.5 pounds, and Fuecoco coming in at 21.6 pounds. He is a chunky boy.
Yeah.
He is my chunky little fire boy, and I think that's my favorite. Also, he looks like the little like dinosaurs from that old arcade game.
Dig Dug?
Is it Dig Dug that had the little like dinosaur guys?
I think that's what you're talking about, or what you're thinking of. It's certainly what I think of when I look at him. Yeah, Dig Dug, like the one where you'd blow them up, like you hit them with like you basically like blew them up and then until they popped.
No, that's not it. Dig Dug was not that. It was because Dig Dug had a little like astronaut looking dude.
Yeah.
I
was talking about his enemies.
They kind of, but there's another one from what is the company? I don't think, because Dig Dug is Namco, and I don't think it was Namco. I think it was Little Arcade Dinosaurs. Let me look this up quick. Little Arcade Dinosaurs.
That's what I get for letting Cameron throw a topic that he has not thoroughly researched or anything. It's two flavors with you. One, absurdly deep lore, or two, let's spend some time on the podcast googling dinosaurs from the 8-bit arcade era. I will say, as somebody who has not hopped into Pokemon for the last few generations, I think X and Y was the last one like I started and just didn't even really get too far in. Like, nothing about this is like particularly enticing me back, but I'm glad people are going to have some more Pokemon to play with this year, presumably, assuming it doesn't get delayed. Obviously, they did say that they're aiming for late 2022, so that's, some big news there for the holiday season. I will also say, like, I think I felt this way about Arceus too when they showed that trailer. Like, this is the first thing they're displaying to the world, and it always annoys me how like just big and like empty they show some of these open worlds. As just like, why would I want to go there? There's nothing there. In this like grand landscape you've shown me. It just I don't get it. But I'm happy for Pokemon fans. You're getting some more Pokemon. Any update on who you're thinking of there, Cam? Dinosaur wise?
I know that they were on the Neo Geo machine, because that was always the one that cannot remember for the life of me. The
swear
SNK.
To God, if you think if you end up thinking, oh, it was Dig Dug, I'm gonna be so.
It's not Dig Dug. It is not Dig Dug. These were like little like bubble dinosaurs.
Bubble Bobble? Yeah.
Bubble Bobble?
Yeah, it's probably what you're thinking of. Bubble Bobble then. 8-bit Bubble Bobble? Like
yes.
Nintendo Bubble Bobble? Okay. There we go. Well, we solved that mystery. Fuecoco looks like the Bubble Bobble dinosaurs, and or the Dig Dug dinosaurs. All right. Well, let me throw it to you instead then, Cam, to talk about something I'm sure you've put some time into, healthy bit of time into, Elden Ring. Give me some preliminary thoughts here on Elden Ring. Elden Ring, I will say, first words I have ever actually just gone ahead and muted on Twitter because I'm so tired of seeing everybody talk about Elden Ring.
There you go. Also, I put this in the chat so that you can see it, Trevor.
Okay. I don't easily have that pulled up, so yeah. Okay,
that's fair.
That's the Bubble Bobble dinosaur. Yep.
Yeah. So he reminds me of the Bubble Bobble. So there we go. So Elden Ring. Let's talk about Elden Ring. Elden Ring is interesting for me. And it kind of ties
as our Souls, the biggest fan on the site of Souls.
Probably, yeah. And even then, I'm not like the largest one.
Easily, yeah. Of this site, yes.
Of this site for sure. I'm definitely the largest From Software fan on the site. But I will also state that I'm also not big into the Souls games as probably most other people are.
Mm-hmm.
Because people who are really into it, and games like it, like Neo and whatnot. I'm not so much into all of those games. It really has to, like, I really have to get hooked onto a game. For example, like Code Vein was a game that really sunk its hooks into me. And I played quite a bit of that game, but I am also kind of the player who I don't like playing those games for like extremely long periods of time. I do like kind of like if I'm like really not feeling it or I'm kind of hitting a wall, I'll kind of like drop off for a bit, come back later. Um, so my feelings about Elden Ring are kind of a little complex, which is not surprising considering who I am. But I will say overall, I think this is definitely the best. I don't want to say it's the best Souls game because it's not a Souls game. Um, and it's not a Bloodborne type game, and it's not a Sekiro game. If I were to take the kind of like 3 From Software franchises that have really been put out in the last 15 20 like 15ish years, you have the Souls games, you have Bloodborne, and then you have Sekiro. And I think that this game is a perfect triangulation of all 3 of those genres of From Software games. There is a liquidity and speed and flow to how everything in the world moves that you got a lot of in Sekiro. There's a lot of like combat kind of like tricks like you got in Bloodborne. Like there's little idiosyncrasies that certain weapon types and certain things can like move in a kind of flow into combat that kind of like really works really well. And kind of like, setting yourself up for combos and setting yourself up for moves later on that plays deeper into Bloodborne versus kind of like the more dual mechanic of Sekiro. And then on the flip side of that, you'll have kind of like it doesn't have the weight of a Souls game. And when I mean that, I mean like Trevor, you played Bloodborne and you played Demon Souls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you know that there's like I don't know if you would describe it as this, but there's a.
I've also played Sekiro.
Yeah, you played Sekiro. That's right. Yeah. So
did not get very far in Sekiro, but I have played it.
But then, so you know that there is a kind of like heft and weight to a Souls game, versus the other genre.
Of those 3, I would say like Souls is like the most slow and heavy. And then you get like Bloodborne that's kind of like the middle, like faster, lighter, and then Sekiro was the most fast-paced and lightest of the 3.
Yeah. So with that kind of comparison, I do think Elden Ring's combat fits kind of within a triangulation of like it just feels good. Eviscerations in this game are just sneak attacks from behind feel incredible. I was actually I had a fun time when I picked up a flail from a chest. And so I used this flail to do a backstab, and literally you like launch the flail ball, like the spiked ball into somebody's back, like rip it out and then swing it around and then like clock them on the head with it. And it was super cool and satisfying to see that happen. Granted, it was a weaker weapon, so it didn't auto kill them like my sword did, but it was still such a cool like moment. Be like, oh, cool! Like this weapon works differently. It's not just like a object that is being swung, and depending on the size of and how it's programmed for weight, it swings slower or faster. It actually just swings differently. There is like a delayed effect of if you're hitting somebody up close, you hit them first with the club and then the ball and chain come around to do like kind of like a little bit of a follow-up attack. It all happens really quickly, almost instantaneously, but you can tell that there's a small delay. And you can utilize that delay to like get one over on your opponent who is ignoring your first hit. Like taking the damage so that they can counterattack you. And then you hit them with the follow-up, and that prevents the follow-up, their counterattack from following through on you. Sometimes. I haven't gotten it to work perfectly yet, but that was my experience using just like a weapon. And it like honestly was satisfying, but it's not my favorite thing to use in the game. So like I probably won't continue doing that. But just having that experience of just like, oh, this weapon works differently. It has a cool, like kind of like unique thing about it. Immediately reminded me of Bloodborne. And the way that Bloodborne's weapons often work, especially some of the more trick-based weapons that you can get later on in the game. Just thought that was super cool. I really enjoyed that. The way that they've taken kind of the approach of the world itself is heavily inspired by Sekiro from like as far as like not traversal, because in Sekiro you can literally like, go all over those levels. But the way that their approach to it is like, yeah, you can kind of go anywhere in this world. A little bit like the Souls games, but and Bloodborne, where like I want to get to that place. Can I get to it? Yeah, if it's like a playable area, then for sure you can get to it. Versus Sekiro, which is like everything can be climbed and like leapt upon and whatnot. It kind of fits itself right there in kind of that triangulation of the kind of like way the characters move, the way the world moves around. Just feels very much like that from what I've seen from people who are further in on the game. It definitely feels a lot like that as well. It has a lot. I will say that the world, as far as like the world aspect of like the things Trevor hates in a Souls game, which is there's no way I would possibly know that that dude is hiding around a corner, ready just to like rip my face off the moment I come across the threshold of this door. There's a little bit of that, but those places are remarkably like that. There's a difference between those things and like the rest of the world. So like when it does happen, it's not happening all the time. You don't have to check all your corners. You should, because you know it's a Souls game. You never know. Or not a Souls game. It's an Elden Ring. Like it's a From Software game. You never know.
Yeah.
But like I ran into one enemy, and to be honest, it was completely telegraphed that there was like an enemy off to the left hand side, past the like the hall, like hallway entrance, that I was in this underground cavern. But also like things about this underground cavern was like telegraphing, hey, there's going to be something that comes up behind you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it telegraphed in like the game design / you knowing from soft's tricks from that, or is it telegraphed in somebody put a note on the ground saying like look out behind you, or keep watch, like yeah, those kinds of things.
Like, but also like the room itself, when you start walking into it, the camera moves forward to focus on what's in front of you.
Okay.
And you can hear off to your right hand side that there's something there.
Gotcha.
So it's like, oh, did we put something in the corner? Like that kind of a moment with like, and like, oh, fun. Okay. And like the thing about it is it's not happening all the time, so I'm not annoyed by it.
What is because I've seen it all over the place online and just having no context for it. What is the use finger butthole thing? Is that
I don't know.
Okay.
I've here's the thing. There are so many messages in the game. I've tend to ignore them.
Okay. It seems to have been like the first one people find. So okay.
No.
Okay.
Wait. Maybe. I don't know. It's like it just sounds like some like dumb note that somebody left behind.
It's definitely like they're playing on word because they don't spell butt as in your ass.
I could have totally missed it, gone over my head then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Entirely, like this is a game. By the way, you can miss things.
Oh yeah,
it's super easy to miss things in this game.
Yeah. So how far into it are you? Have you beaten any of the bosses? Any of that kind of stuff? No. Still very.
I beat the not the first boss, because that's the auto boss that kills you. A la Souls games.
Unless you're really, really good, and then you can make a video about like, here's how you beat that blah blah blah, and what happens if you do.
He's not that hard though. That's the thing. It's like, granted, I have some experience in these games, so like I'm not surprised that I didn't find it to be too difficult. It's just what you have at the start of the game isn't really like, well, if you don't get it, like you don't start the game off with a useless flask or anything.
Yeah. I mean, like I know that they are. Those first encounters always designed to kill you, but like there are also plenty of videos out there of like people who are really good that like dodge and dash all around and do kill those things with like the first attire or whatever. Yeah,
and it's totally the thing about it is like because I do a weird thing where I kind of like I find a character class or a character starting point that I like, and then eventually I remember, oh yeah, I don't know this game well enough to like be able to do this right away. I'd rather make it easier on myself, and I go back and I just choose like the standard knight option, which is like, you know, good sword, good shield, good kind of like physical stats, no magic. Like I'm going to do a run through of that. I could go pure magic. Shout out, by the way, to Snowbike Mike, who is now going by Magic Mike, because he's made a mage-based character for Elden Ring.
Okay.
And it's like, you go, man. Love you so much. He's so good. His streams on Elden Ring are hilarious. because like one of them, they've already kind of been. This one's already been broken out, but he was like talking to chat and being like, yeah, chat, you got to be careful in this area because like I'm running around, I'm killing stuff, I'm shooting magic and whatnot, like I'm dodging moves, and you got to be careful because you could just make like one wrong step and before he can even finish his sentence, he falls off into the water and dies.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like that look of just like that look that the feeling he's feeling because it's that feeling of like
it's that, well, that's definitely gonna get clipped out.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, it was just, it's like great moments like that have been just like phenomenal. Andy Cortez, of course, has just been like, rocking it, doing like playing a lot of multiplayer, which is different for him. Like teaming up with people to take on like harder bosses in the world. Like I'm liking that sort of stuff, and it's something that I've realized that like from what I've watched from people, and then what I've also played for myself, I've kind of come to a very interesting kind of determination about like why I think Elden Ring is great, but that in its comparison to Horizon Forbidden West that's come out, like I made a very interesting kind of like I picked up on something that I found was very interesting. And I guess this is a good moment to try and like I don't really have too many thoughts about the Elden Ring. I'm still at the very like beginnings of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bad habit of like over grinding at the beginning of a Souls game or like a From Software game to like beef myself up so I don't like cry at like first initial like boss encounters.
So one of the things I will ask before we transition over to Horizon, obviously one of my core frustration of these games is like you are supposed to die and you're supposed to suffer and that's just not why I play games. But the new generations, and one of the reasons I got as far as I did through Demon Souls, I think, was because when you die, the game basically can load you right back in, versus like PS3 era where it was like you die and then it's 45 seconds of loading and it's just wasting your life. How does this game handle that kind of stuff? Obviously big open world, so seems like there's probably a lot more going on under the hood, but does if you die, does the game get you back in relatively quickly to kind of minimize the pain and punishment of that? It still fucking taunts you, as I'm sure it does, of like, you died, ha 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 ha. But
less of that even.
I'm saying, does it still have a screen that comes up, you died?
Yeah, but it's not.
That's what I'm saying. Is the game is taunting you?
Yeah,
it's a FromSoft staple.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely like, yeah, no shit, game. I know I died. You don't need to put it there in big bold font for me.
You're like, I feel the PTSD of your like
of Bloodborne. Yeah,
Bloodborne,
absolutely,
just like radiating off of you.
Yep.
Like I'm like, it's not even through the camera. I can feel you out in your home. I can feel your like anger radiating, like radioactive like material, just like coming off of you. Like it's palpable.
The annoying thing is like, as everybody like talks about the game, like I constantly am like, should I check this out? Knowing that I will hate it and have a terrible time, but it's still like, maybe this will be the one that suddenly like turns it around for me. And I'm like, I know it won't. Stop it, Trevor. Just go back to Horizon. Like, just mute this so you can stop seeing all the nonsense. Because like I look at like one of the first bosses that like that people are playing, and I'm seeing like videos of and stuff. Like I'm seeing like, oh yeah, I do plenty of that dashing and whatnot. I could probably avoid it. And then it like does a jump in midair and just kind of like hovers there for a while before landing down. I'm like, that is bullshit timing. That's not how physics works. How am I supposed to account for that nonsense? Oh, you just have to learn that he's going to float there for a couple seconds before actually coming down. Fuck you, Elden Ring. Fuck off. Fuck FromSoft. I hate those games. People like them, fine. Don't gatekeep. Don't be a piece of shit. Which is sadly what too many people do.
That is true.
But I hope you continue enjoying your time with Elden Ring. As I continue to not.
I will put out there that there are a lot more. Here's the thing: I can totally see some like From Software fans like being upset, thinking that this is like babying or putting an easy mode in there or like making things easier for people. and being like upset that it's not as brutal and cruel and ruthless as previous games have been. One aspect of that I would point to is that there are more than just like your campsites. There are actual like I forgot what they're called, but they're essentially mini statues that you can find out in the world that can act as a like recent check, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there's an area where there's a camp of enemy knights that are guarding kind of like this caravan, and if you like infiltrate and attack their camp and like steal their stuff from their wagons, like you get some cool stuff. Like you get some good stuff in those wagons. So it's kind of worth it to go through and do this. I've heard from other people that like if you don't attack them, the caravan will start moving later on. Like after a period of time, the caravan will like move.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting for me. I like so like things like that. Like that camp is right next to one of those like respawn points, basically.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say for the PS5's loading times, like maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Longest I ever had was probably closer to 30, and that was because a cutscene was about to start after I died, after
Mm-hmm.
like the initial boss fight. So I would say like timing wise, like it gets you back into the game pretty quick.
That's good.
One
of the other things.
Yeah, so yeah,
just,
my final thought kind of. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say the last thing I would weigh in on this is like everybody touting like, is this the best reviewed game of all time? I'm like, well, you have to remember that the people reviewing like Elden Ring are FromSoft fans who are inclined to love FromSoft games. So yes, it might be like incredibly well reviewed among that niche community, but like that's because you don't have people like me reviewing these games and saying like, no, fuck this game.
Yeah, I think that this also is a game that if you were on the fence about From Software games, this is a great game to like get you into that. But for somebody who knows they don't like From Software games, like you, Trevor, I would not suggest playing it. Like,
Yeah.
I would not suggest being like, this will be the one that changes things for you. It probably won't. Like, it probably will not. It's made things easier, I think, for a lot of like new like barrier of entry players. Sorry, that's a butchered sentence. I think they've made it easier for new players with like a lowering that barrier of entry to make it easier. I do think personally, like, of course, like I wrote an article on that nerdy site about it. I think further things need to be done to introduce accessibility and make things like, I don't care if you make the game easier, like people want to enjoy your world, let them enjoy your world. And that's kind of like the conclusion I come to about it. I will say that this is a big step in the right direction as far as like opportunities for like the fact that they've made certain changes to the game's mechanics to make things quote unquote easier. I think is a direct response to especially Sekiro, where it was like either you are like you don't have to get good in Sekiro, you have to get amazing at Sekiro. You have to get phenomenal at Sekiro to beat some of those fights. And I think that that's just part of a response to it, but also in making a massive open world like this, there are like you can't be like, well, by the time you get to this fight, you should know X and Y. There's no guarantee that they will have learned, like, seen X or Y. And so there's things like that that make things a lot better. For people who are like, I've tried playing it, but I kept getting my butt whooped. Like, run away. This is something that like other games have not been able to do in other games necessarily. Run away. Like you can run away. Like I run away all the time. It's great. I don't die. I run away. I go back to like a camp. I go to a site of grace or a place like that, and I immediately drop down, reheal, go back to it, and do it again. And if I get in trouble, I run away again. There's no shame in running away, and it's easier here than ever before because at one point they literally give you a mount that helps you run away.
And has a double jump.
Yeah, it has a double jump, so you can even jump over enemies who are attacking you, so you don't get like corralled into a place. Run away. Like if you are like not making a dent into like a singular lower tier enemy in an area you're in, cool. It just means like this is just a really strong area. Run away. Go somewhere else. Like this is a big open world. You can go to other places. Yeah, so you're not boxed into, well, I have to get good, I guess. Like you don't technically have to do that. There's plenty of places for you to go. to explore, because I got trapped into I got let like into a trap that took me to a place where the
Oh,
enemies were way too
oh,
tough.
did you find the unkillable enemy cave or whatever it was?
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen that going around too. Of like, oh, oh, so you accidentally triggered this trap? Haha.
Yep.
Good luck. Yeah.
But here's the thing: you can fast travel out of that place. Like you can leave. You can run away there like super easily out of that cave. I know I did it. I thought I was gonna have a harder time running out of that cave. I did not. I got out of there. I like immediately found a site of grace, dropped down to it, used it, got out of there. Like immediately transported myself back to the beginning like bonfire area.
Hmm.
Like super easy to traverse with their open world. They do not make you have like items that you need to do to fast travel. It's like, we know this is a big world. We know you're going to be bouncing around a lot. Feel free to just bounce between these sites, which is super not Souls like.
Hmm.
Like that's super unusual for Souls games. Because part of like Souls games have been, or even Bloodborne games, or there's only one Bloodborne, but anyway.
I
But in
mean,
From Software games, normally there is like, oh, you want to get back to that place? Well, guess what? There's actually a secret passage that you have to unlock by doing this and this and this. And
okay. I
it's
mean,
like,
like I'm
yeah,
thinking of Demon Souls most recently, where like, oh, I was able to fast travel between, between the bonfires.
that is something unique to Demon Souls
Okay,
up until now, I would say.
gotcha.
So
Admittedly, yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember Bloodborne well enough to remember if I could do that or not.
I
But
think if you went back to the Hunter's Dream, you could then transport yourself to
yeah,
like whatever location you wanted to. But
yeah,
I don't recall if you could. Actually, this might be just me being full of shit. It might be because you might be able to do that in all the Souls games. Now I think about
yeah. Anyway,
it.
um,
Yeah.
well, cool. Glad you're having a good time with Elden Ring. And well,
Before we transition to Horizon, I kind of want to like hit on like what I was mentioning earlier
yeah, sure.
about kind of like my realizations about, because it ties into Horizon Forbidden West as well. Um, when it comes to Elden Ring, I think Elden Ring is the perfect example of what if people made games the way they used to, but with today's technology. Like Elden Ring screams to me like original Zelda on the NES, of like like these worlds, like some older Atari games where these are worlds that are filled with secrets and you get to explore them and unlock those secrets. And it's not like you get hints or anything built into the game. You have to learn it as you go around it by trying stuff. Um and it has a lot of that aspect of like when we were younger and hanging out at the playground being like, "Oh, but did you find this?" "No, I didn't find that. Where'd you find that?" Like that kind of aspect of old school game design and old school kind of like the gaming experience is, I think, perfected here. And I think that's an interesting parallel to a game. And even though both games are open world games, the reason why I think they're so distinctly different from each other is because Horizon, I think, is the perfect example of that kind of, or sorry, Elden Ring is a perfect example of that kind of like game design, kind of like uh, mindset, and how you're designing and building and playing through these games. Now, on the flip side of that, I think Horizon Zero Dawn is probably the best version of a modern game design in open world. I think when it comes to the open world of Horizon Forbidden West, I think I said Zero Dawn earlier.
Yeah.
Forbidden West, I think, is perfect in its open world with modern game design standards and like thought of like it's thought about, hey, how accessible do we want to make this open world? How do we want to do these sorts of things? Like, oh, this is locked because you haven't gotten this item yet. How do we want to convey that? How do we want to like make sure you understand that when you do get this thing, you can go back and unlock those areas? The way that they approach like modern game design and modern kind of like game theory is so great and so spectacular in Forbidden West that I think that it's so amazing that we literally have these two games that came out right by each other. And they are perfect examples of how to do an open world right, even though they are completely opposite in their approach to it as far as like how do we want you to like how do we want you to explore this world?
I would say yes and no. I mean, at least in terms of the horizon, obviously, now that we're in kind of this topic, like they they introduce ideas of like, oh, you can't get this yet. Like, we'll give you a little icon on the map or something
Yeah.
to say this is blocked off, kind of thing. They do that, and then I'm because I'm further along in the game than you. But there are certain instances where they do not do that, and and it becomes like, wait, can I do this? Am I supposed to be able to do this now? And I actually found one later in the game where I managed to get to a place I wasn't supposed to have gotten to, or whatever, um, through the means that the game eventually gives you, and the quest just was broken. I couldn't do anything in the quest, and I was just like, shit, did I like did I bug something? Fortunately, once I eventually got those elements that I needed to get later on, like, it worked as it was supposed to. But there was definitely like a shit. Have I played 50 hours of this game and I've bugged these two quests and I'm not going to be able to finish them? One of them that I can sense has a trophy attached to it or something like that. Am I going to be fucked out of this? And then later, once you do start getting those icons, if you like clear that point on the map, they don't go away. Like or they're, at least for me, it is very hit or miss on if they disappear or not. There have been
Mm.
some where I'm like I know I've been to that thing and I've gone back and like unlocked that thing, but the icon's still on the map, which tells me like, oh, there's still a thing there for me to go find. And so I don't think it's supposed to do that. I think that is a bug. I think that is like a thing that they
I
need
think
to
that's a
like
bug, yeah.
clean up and fix, because there are definitely other times where it is, oh yeah, you need this tool to get to this point. You've got that tool, you use it, cool, that icon disappears off the map. But
Yeah.
it's inconsistent in how it handles it, and so I think it is a shortcoming of the game. And not in a game breaking kind of way or anything like that, but it is like, oh, this feature that they're trying to include isn't working completely right, and needs a little bit more polish. But yeah, then again, to the my first point there are definitely some points later in the game where it's like, oh, you like, this part was really designed for once you've got this thing, and if you manage to get there earlier, because it is Breath of the Wild like or whatever, you've got other tools at your disposal that you can kind of maybe figure out a way to maneuver up there or something like that. The game's scripting intends for you to be there with this other thing, and if you're not there with it, it just won't load in the items that you're supposed to be finding in that area or something like that. So I like, I
Mm.
went, or like, it was like, hey, find these 4 things scattered around like this plot of land or something like that. And I'm like scanning with the focus and doing this whole thing, not finding anything. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I I I guess this one just doesn't work for me. And then eventually came back later on in the game, and sure enough, those things were there finally. Um but yeah, so it's a little bit hit or miss on that kind of functionality for me. But that's like one of the few, I guess, minor grievances I have on the game. I've been
I
having
was
a
about to
ton of
say,
fun
I'm
with
like,
it.
that sounds like not a bad, like not a contrast to what I was saying about game design. That just sounds like some bugs.
Yeah, well, it's I would say it is it's not telling me, hey, you're not supposed to be here yet or whatever, or you like it like, that's what I'm saying, is like in some of those earlier areas, it does kind of give you the like the visual, as well as like Aloy saying like, oh, I guess I'll have to come back later or something like that, kind of those clues. But there are certain places in the game that you can get to that don't give you those clues, even though you need a thing that you're going to get later on. So it's hit or miss on that design element. When it's doing it, yeah, it's great. It is it, because obviously this is a giant Metroidvania kind of open world, a la your Tomb Raiders and stuff like that, where it is, hey, yeah, as you progress through the story, you're gonna get things that will help you unlock those other things that you pass by earlier in the game. Um, and when it tells you, yes, this is a thing you can't do yet, great. But when it doesn't, it's like, I've spent 15 minutes trying to like clamber around an area and find something that I wasn't meant to find yet. So like, was a little
That's weird because like I have not had that experience at
right.
all.
It's a very later game kind of thing that I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure I'm probably a good 20-30 hours ahead of you, gameplay wise, because I am 76% on my game completion thing, and that's about 75 hours of gameplay time, I think, or 70 some odd hours of gameplay. So yeah,
Interesting.
it was a far on the west side of the map thing that I was able to get to, which admittedly I was going there
Like I've
for a
unlocked, I've
quest.
I've done like I don't know how far you think I am in it. I'm to the point where I'm about to do like the final mission.
Oh, I mean, this is tough to do without spoiler stuff because like I don't know what the final mission is, versus like other elements, because there are things that I've thought, oh, this is probably the final mission here, um, that it was not. So,
Well,
but
I'm past several like plot reveal points
I
and like major
yeah
decisions.
yeah
So
yeah. Okay. I mean, we'll like
um
obviously we'll have to talk about this in a spoiler filled sense after we record this episode, but like
yeah,
it's
no,
still a very fun game.
so I've unlocked, I'm pretty sure I've unlocked I unlocked the way to do the like armor on the mountain quest.
I don't even remember what the armor on the mountain quest is. Oh
It's a
yeah.
sky it's a
Okay.
sky tribe quest
No.
that you get super
Yeah,
early
yeah.
on that you
Okay.
don't
That's
is that the one that you had
so
trouble with
that's what
that,
I'm talking
yeah.
about. Yeah, I was able to
Oh,
do that
okay.
one before I unlocked the thing that I was supposed to have to get to that one. So yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting to me because there are like three things that would indicate that you don't have the ability to like act like get to that like complete that quest is um in the log it says you can't like it's on hold until you learn
It
for a way.
it was not for me. Nope.
Okay.
Cuz I
And then
was
the second thing was it
yeah,
has the
I was able to basically
like
glide over there from like the top of a nearby mountain.
okay. And then on top of that, on the map itself, it also has an icon that says like the way is blocked.
Did not none of
Cool.
those
I don't.
none
So
of
you got like, that
yeah,
quest
none of those
bugged out
things
for
were
you
there
then.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So it sounds like that quest just like super bugged out for you.
yeah, because I've definitely
Um.
there have been a few where it's like, hey, this is on hold, you got to wait for this thing. But that one was not one of those where it was like, no, I managed to get up there. Like I clearly wasn't supposed to yet. So that's what I'm saying is that there have been like elements like that where yeah, I guess it seems like that was maybe a bug on my end or something like that. But
Yeah.
um,
Because things like that are normally like when I've been playing through have been made very clear from like iconography,
mhm.
vocal lines from Aloy. Like a lot of stuff has been like very much making it clear, like, hey, like because I ran into an issue where I unlocked the means to get into an area, but I didn't have the means to like what that area was meant to be.
Mhm.
I had not unlocked that through a quest line yet.
Yeah.
It was one of the quest lines with Zoe. And and I unlocked the way to get through the Meadow Flowers, and like one of those areas is for a Zoe quest line
Mhm.
that if you do not have that as an active quest, it's just you just jumping around trying to be like, what was this area for?
Yeah, what am I supposed to I've definitely found a couple of those where I'm like, "Oh, this is clearly going to be a place I'm going to come back later for a quest." Because there
Yeah.
you've put too many things in my way here, but there's like no actual reward yet, or there's no like this is very clearly designed to be an encounter area, but I'm not fighting anybody. So yeah, and then sure enough, 10 hours later or something, it's like, "Oh, yep, I'm here. I'm back." Yeah, there's definitely those elements too. Which is like that. I mean, that is certainly a feature of kind of these open world games. But I mean, like, yeah, all that stuff aside, I think like it is a very engaging world, absolutely, and I love kind of the different like the different biomes, the different cultures, kind of across the map. As you and I talked the other night, like it is a very worthy continuation of kind of all the lore and like tribal mythology that got set up in the
Hmm.
first game and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say so. So just to put a pin, or not a pin, just to put a kind of conclusion in my thoughts on like between the two games and their comparison, that I was trying to make is like I do think like my feelings about Elden Ring are that like this is a Elden Ring, I think, is a masterclass in a more older type of game design and like game theory when it comes to an open world approach. And I think on the opposite end of things, I think Forbidden West is a masterclass in the modern sense and like the way looking forward. So like one's looking to the past, one's looking to the future, and I think that that is just an incredibly cool experience that we're like people who are able to experience with these two games if they're playing them around the same time. That I think is very unique and very cool, and I love the idea that like we exist currently in a gaming scene where something like this is possible. So,
Sure.
but moving back into like kind of our more Forbidden West conversation, yeah, like when we talked about things prior to it, I don't want to get too into a lot of the details that we talked about because that has to do with like some like previous like I don't want to say controversies, but some like previous talking points that have already been talked about
Mhm.
that two white guys on a podcast probably like aren't the best people equipped to be tackling that subject matter. Um, but I will say that like I love the continuation of we are not like this is not the prior world. This is not the old world. Old world like boundaries and like old world kind of like the way that societies are broken up is not the same as it is here. In the way that there is not a I guess what I'm trying to say is the idea of cultures being based on where people are living at that time versus where they come from or versus like we're not dealing with like an ancestral pedigree of literally thousands of years of like imperialism and expansionism that is going to dictate certain things about people's culture and regions. um the closest thing we have to that is the Karja and the Red Raids, which happened only 20ish years ago in the storyline of the game.
Mhm.
Other than that, contact between tribes was very like contact between the tribes was very what you expect for a Stone Age civilization, like Stone Age technological level civilization, where not everybody has reading and writing. Not everybody like that's a big talking point for the Tanakh chief when he talks about like the way that like the things that he wanted from Karja culture is like he goes into explaining like the differences between their cultures and how I don't want to get into the spoiler territory here, but um the way that he talks about how the legacies that the Karja leave behind last so much longer be, are because the Karja write down in parchment and scroll about the legacies versus the Kanath and the way that they do, the way that they carry forward legacy. I thought that that brilliant, like a brilliant moment of talking about these are two, like technically speaking, both tribes were founded from the same like era and project that came from Zero Dawn. Like theoretically, but because of how their cultures formed over the period, over like the 1,000 years that it's been since since the like reboot of the world. Sorry, spoilers for Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think like the game at the beginning kind of introduces you and says, "Here's everything that happened in Horizon Zero Dawn,"
Yeah.
and yeah, like talking about a sequel is always going to be a little weird like that. But yeah, if you missed out on Zero Dawn, you probably stopped listening to Horizon Forbidden West talk a little while ago.
Yeah. Oh, I will also say or put out there that's that's one of the things I find so interesting is that the the old one's storyline is like the B storyline. It's not even like the primary one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interwoven in such a beautiful way in Zero Dawn, and it's come to much more of a forefront in Forbidden West, just because of like the situation that the world was in at the time, and like something that's very interesting is like because of the decay of the current world is causing a lack of resources. It's causing these conflicts to kind of like start up, like these certain conflicts to rise up because of a lack of resources. Is very interesting for me. Like I just found that super interesting that it's like tensions are high because life is hard,
Mhm.
and life was already hard, especially for like the Tanakh. I've really fell in love with the Tanakh. We talked a little bit about it when we talked last time about like how crazy funny and awesome it is that like this like the way that they're the origin of their culture,
Mhm.
of this warrior culture and where it comes from, and like just kind of like the I don't want to say irony, but just kind of like this like higher level coincidence of like the correlation between the old world and the current world once again continues to be top notch. I think Zero Dawn started it by making it pretty great about that, and then kind of like Forbidden West, I think, has like doubled down on certain aspects of it to make it really amazing. I think there's one area in particular for the area that's the underwater section.
Right. Yeah. That was what
And
I
like,
like
yeah,
when you and I talked the other day over dinner, like I had played that, you had not, and I was like, when you get to this, like that is a thing of this game that I will remember long after I'm done with this game. That whole sequence of things. I was like, that was a really cool way of showing a variation on like our world versus their world versus like how it was in the old world kind of thing.
but also like the things that connect us still, like through these, like this area has a history in our world, and to see it follow through and still like connect with people in the new world is phenomenal. Like
Mhm.
it's so great, and like I love the attitude of the characters that you meet. I love everything. Like in the something I will say about Forbidden West versus Zero Dawn is I definitely think they understood a lot of the criticism being like a lot of these side characters are kind of like whatever, or like some of them are pretty forgettable. I feel so strongly about like knowing and meeting all of these characters that I've met.
Mhm.
Um, there's the two sisters that are the inventors, where one
One is
like clearly
Boomer,
has,
yeah.
yeah, Boomer has like autism, is on the spectrum for sure.
Mhm.
Um, Granted, we are all on the spectrum. That's why it's a spectrum. But she is like, she's for sure like has a place that's firm on that spectrum that is like great. And the story of like the struggles and difficulties of dealing with mental health issues in this new world. Like in some tribes, she'd be seen as like witchcraft or whatever. And in her tribe, she's just seen as kind of like a nuisance. And like,
Yeah, there's another one, I don't know if you've done this side quest, but it's like a an older like an older warrior going through dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that,
mhm,
and like
yeah.
the struggles that he has and how that impacts like the people around him. Like it is there are definitely interesting elements where like I find myself thinking, "Oh yeah, that would be a thing that would carry over into this world, and how do people deal with it in like with the knowledge that they have about the world."
And I think it says a lot about the different tribes and like what they've embraced. You have things like the Oseram, who are a tribe entirely like entirely of inventors and scientists, and like they're thinking like they do not get hung up on superstition. They're all about out there pursuing the world, and it's such a contrast to highly superstitious tribes that you meet
Mhm.
that have like firm traditions. And they like, and whenever they talk about the Oseram, they talk about them with like just like either like hate or annoyance, because it's just like these meddlesome people move into a territory to sell you stuff, and then they're all of a sudden challenging all of your ideas. And it's like it's so cool to see like not all tribes subscribe to the same kind of like prototypical tribal civilization like mode of thought that you would anticipate from a more shallow experience, and instead they think they really hit the nail on the head for delving into more of these and like their origin points, and like how we take something, how our ancestors took something and turned that into a like a modem of faith,
Mhm.
like an actual like process of like turning this into rituals and faith, and realizing, and I love this aspect of it also because I like it takes back to my old school lessons from community college and my the only anthropology class that I ever took, where like the question of like what is the purpose of religion comes up. And I was like, oh well, it's to teach morals, this like these like highly like common like typical like this is why we needed religion. And like my anthropology professor just shutting me down, saying, no, all of that's wrong.
That's way too high brain for like how it all starts is,
Yeah.
hey, we need a way to explain why water is falling from the sky.
Not even that.
Oh,
Before
okay.
that, even anthropologically speaking, the reason why religion exists is because it creates a common link between two people who otherwise have nothing else in common. Because guess what? Some people don't care about why water falls from the sky. Water just falls from the sky for them. Whatever, they deal with it. Some people ponder and think about that. Like, but what unites those two people? Well, there's the rain god. We both pray to the rain god. You pray to the rain god because you're interested in the rain falling from the sky. I pray to the rain god because I want my crops to be watered.
I mean,
But
okay. I think I don't know if I fully agree with your anthropology professor then in
that's
that
fair.
regard. Because
I
like
mean, I created that example.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a
yeah.
bad example. I created that example. But the idea that this is a singular function in a society or in a culture that can unite people and put them on the same kind of like wavelength, no matter what else they do in society. There is a common link that is existential from the individual and can create unity and society out of it. And that's one of the reasons why fundamentally like part of human nature is we look for these things, these icons, these totems to bring us together, even though even though subject wise and like topic wise, like oh, like, well, we pray to our ancestors, oh, well, we pray to like the wind, like, but there is an aspect of like intangibility to this, like to these ideas that unite peoples. And I think that it's put on display here, both with the Tanakh, with the Quen, with a lot of the different tribes that you see. And then you have tribes like the Osram who don't have any of that. Their interests lie in their common interest of like shared other sociological things, but they always come back to, and it's funny too, because even the characters who like know the truth of the world, like Aaron, like still say like by the forge, or like may their ashes rest in the forge, like all sorts of stuff about like, even though they're not religious, there is still a unifying aspect in the idea of the forge with the Osram people. And so I find that that's such the unique way of building out a world where you don't have elves and dwarves and like physical distinctions to separate groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, like the characters also, like design wise, societal wise, look super different from each other. Like I love even just within the Tanakh, just like the different tribal aspect of these tribes. And it's like I love what I'm seeing here. Also, shout out to the desert tribe, the desert clan, because like straight up, like I'm digging like the heavy like desert rat Arizona vibes that they throw off. It's super great.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like it is like getting to learn about kind of each of like the different like cultures or subcultures of the game and like why they believe the things they believe is always is a fun element of these games for me excuse me. um and like getting to see, or when you see how those things tie to like an old world idea, and it's like they just really all coalesced around this one thing that has then sprinkled out over time, or because people in power used it to kind of like maintain and hold their power and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that sounds like religion. um so but yeah, apart from that, combat
But you
still
like
still fun.
this is yeah, combat's super fun. But I will say back to that point though, but you have examples of both the like religion being like this great thing for this tribe, but then you also get the flip side of it, like you said about people using it for control. I look at like the Quen as like a very particular example of.
Yeah.
I'm going to be generic about this and say about all of that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also shout out to whoever had the idea to call somebody a CO.
Yeah.
That was brilliantly inspired.
As soon as I met that person, I was like, well, I hope this person pays a horrible price. I am not
But
going. I know I'm not going to enjoy this person.
when I thought it was his name, I was like, that's a cool name. But I was thinking like it was like SIO or something
Oh,
like that. And
yeah. Well, like I'm playing with the subtitles, so I
so
knew
did I.
I knew right away it was not. Yeah.
Well, I knew it right away it wasn't either, but I thought it was like just supposed to be a name. I didn't realize it was and then when they reveal it's a title, I was like, oh god, no.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's also the time that they reveal like that guy is just an enormous jackass.
Yeah.
Not really a spoiler. He kind of comes off as a jackass.
I mean, yeah, he's a jackass as soon as you meet him. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, that entire section, by the way, is phenomenal.
Given the conversation we had again, we'll dive into for spoilers here. But the conversation we had, was it Wednesday night or whatever? Like as I played through that, like the next day or something like that, I was like, oh, this is checking off exactly what Cameron wanted to do, in that conversation. So, yeah, it was a fun little bit. It was definitely also one like when you said that. That was like my next main quest to do in the game. So like I knew it was coming, or I knew something was coming along those lines, and that was the one time where I was like, okay, I gotta mask my face a little bit and try and not give away that Cam just tapped onto something.
Dude, I was so happy when that happened. I was like, I can't believe we're getting to do this. This is so great.
Yeah.
And then like you go through and it's like, oh, it's way worse than I thought it could have been.
Right.
It's way worse. Yeah. It was way worse.
Yep. But yeah, combat real fun still. And like I don't think that's a surprise. If you like the combat of the first game, this is more of it. Adds a few different flavors of like elemental attacks, few different weapon types you can play around.
It's awesome. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I will say that they've done a great job of somebody who played like one of my good friends played through Horizon Zero Dawn on like the absolute hardest difficulty. And when I talked to him about it, it's like, well, like, what's the difference? Like, why are you saying like these? And he talked to me and he basically explained that like, because the enemies are so much tougher, you have to use a wider variety of tools in Zero Dawn. Mm-hmm. And something that I thought was really great about Forbidden West is they kind of took that idea and like made it more applicable across the board. Like I find myself constantly switching out weapons, like depending on like what situation. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the disc thrower, whether it's the javelin, give me a javelin that's also a drill on rockets. Yes, please. Great little device. Love it. And then like, just overall, just like awesome. Like I'm switching things up all the time. And I just like, I have like a set way of how I will approach something. Mm-hmm. And I find myself being like less of a sneaky laid traps person and more of a, I scouted out things. Okay, cool. I'm going in and I'm just taking everybody out one by one. Mm-hmm. And it's just done in such a great way. Infiltration is better than it was in Zero Dawn. And this is one of the reasons why I said they're like, it's a masterclass is exploration in this game. You can keep it up where your HUD is up all the time. And like, you have like a guided path to take you to places, or the way I'm playing, the way that's like defaulted is, which is like, you can pulse to see like things light up, but otherwise you're just in the world.
Yeah.
And it's super easy to get lost in the world itself. Which is just like something that I know was a complaint for a lot of people who got to Zero Dawn after Breath of the Wild. Like, it just tells you where to go everywhere. It's like, well, yeah, because before Breath of the Wild, all open world games did that, guys. Mm-hmm. Let's play fair here. But I will say that the way that they've approached it is kind of like I want to climb this thing. Can I climb it? Hit a pulse. Okay, I can climb it, and I can jump up and climb it if I want to. It's such a great addition to the game.
Yeah. Have you gone in? At the top of the game, it basically is like, do you want to play Explorer mode, or do you want to play like with the more like with the HUD up basically the whole time? Have you gone in further and actually gone into like the customize your HUD option?
Yes.
Okay, you did do that. Okay. Because
it's great.
Yeah, after we talked about that the other day, I was like, oh, I'm playing with it on the basic like dynamic mode or whatever it is, where it's like, yeah, most things like the compass is always there for me, and like whatever whatever icon is on my down pad or down on the D-pad button will be there for me, and if I like swipe up on the touchpad, more information will pop up. But it wasn't until after we had that conversation that I hopped in and saw that, oh, you can actually customize and like even take some of those elements off if you want, or you
Yep.
can pick and choose which elements you want on there. And I was very appreciative of that. I still have kept it kind of where I'm at. The one the
Mhm.
one thing in that whole regard that I will say I think is a missed opportunity is the D-pad tools, i.e., your
Yeah.
potions, your traps, and stuff like that. That is terrible to navigate compared to a weapon wheel. Like,
Yes.
not being able to on the fly, like, oh shit, I got hit. I need to use a potion right now. Like, oh shit, I'm nowhere near potions, and I don't like. There's no rhyme or reason to that, like to that list of items. So I'm just like pressing right until I get there. Oh, and the thing killed me before I could get to it. Fuck, like
Yep.
that sucks. That is an unfortunate thing where I'm like, like there could have been a solution there that like even give me the option to customize what order of things I have there would have been great. But the fact that it's like, oh, it goes from like potions to like rudimentary traps to like advanced potions to advanced like not even there, not even like a rhyme or reason to that is just like,
Yeah.
oh, frustrating. It's basically like, here's the order that you received these things in, I guess. And that's just now how it's locked in there. Because there have been plenty of times where I'm like, I just want to get back to the smoke bomb. Give me a smoke bomb. Ah, shit. Didn't get there in time. The thing killed me.
The fact that like even after you like exhaust an item, the icon still stays there, mind bog. Like I
Uh,
have food that I ate that I still have the icon for the food.
But okay, well that's interesting because like that stuff disappears for me when it's a like this is a thing you bought from a merchant and it's food kind of thing. Like versus like the traps, I get why the traps wouldn't disappear because I can still craft more of those traps, and you do that by holding the button down in the same menu kind of thing. But yeah, the fact that food is staying is certainly interesting. Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like I think one of the the weak-ish items of the HUD that I run into, because I have been much more using traps this, and so I was going to say kind of off of your point there. Like I appreciate that the game is still flexible enough that like if you still want to play it this way, you can play it this other way. Like there have been plenty of times where I'm like I never have a desire to use the like sling thing that you use a
Hmm.
lot, in large part because I feel like the creatures are always coming at me, so there's never like time for me to throw it and then it comes back and then you throw it again and it comes back and you throw it again to like really maximize that. But even as I think through that, I'm like, oh, it's because I don't ever really use the rope caster to trap an enemy in place. And so if I really like
Roadcasters
it,
don't do that anymore.
I thought they do.
No,
Admittedly,
roadcasters.
I've not played with the rope caster, so I
So
don't
ropecaster.
quite
So
know.
that's how it was in Zero Dawn. Now ropecasters rope things to like two creatures rather than roping them down.
I've gotten one of those rope casters of like, hey, yeah, this will throw like an elemental tank at somebody or
That's what
something
they
like
do
that.
now.
Okay. I thought that was just like, oh, this is a variation on the rope caster. I thought there was still
If
like,
there's a rope, if there's a ropecaster that binds them down, I haven't seen one yet.
okay,
However, I have heavily abused against friggin' like the friggin' like
the Spinosaurs, the Thunderjaws, the what?
the no less of those two and more way more of the frigging Loch Ness monster one.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, the
That guy
Rippertide, I think. Yeah,
yeah, Ripper Tide or whatever its name is. Or Tide Ripper.
Tide
That's
Ripper.
it, it's
There
Tide
it is.
Ripper.
Yeah,
Tide Rippers are pains in the ass. I will take a like anything else over a Tide Ripper any day of the week because they are just massive pains in the butt. But if I launch 3 ice rope casters on it and then like light them all off, it gets frozen to a popsicle, and then I just like lay explosives on it and
yeah,
like or like take the I got a like an art like a tear disc thrower, so it throws tearing discs, and I just like use that and just like strip it bare, and then just like launch explosives into it, and
mhm,
then it kill it eventually. But even then, it's still like just a brutal friggin' battle.
yeah,
Like hate it.
yeah. But I mean, like it's like it's still incredibly fun and incredibly satisfying when you take down those things.
Oh yeah.
And it is like oh, that was a hard fought thing. There was a side quest I did that was like oh, like you're fighting a Thunderjaw. I'm like, okay, I've taken out a couple Thunderjaws at this point. This will be okay. And then a Stormbird comes flying in, and you're fighting both of them at once. I'm like, what the okay. Oh, well, this definitely amped up a little bit here. Let's see how this goes.
When they're both Apex. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, I can take on a Thunder. Oh, it's an Apex Thunderjaw. Shit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna try and get its disc launcher off and use that against it. Haha.
Yep.
But
Although
yeah.
the disc launcher only has like 6 discs in it now.
Yeah, they definitely they definitely
they nerfed
weaken
heavy
them.
weapons.
Yeah.
They nerfed heavy weapons hard in this game.
Yeah. Or what the oh, what is it? It's like Grimhawk or something. No, it's
Dreadwing.
Dreadwings. Yeah, those things. Like the first one you fight, like story wise, I was like, okay, that was fine. I fought another one in the world and was like, oh, you turn stealth? Okay, that's a thing I didn't know you could do. Okay,
it
fine.
It turned stealth on me during the story mission.
Oh, I did not remember seeing that. So maybe maybe that was the first like element I knocked off it or something, and it just lost that ability. Who knows? Yeah.
Which is awesome. I love that they have like emphasized more components on the machines. So like components actually mean something.
Yeah.
To like how a machine behaves, more so than just like it'll do one of like 2 things. It's like, oh, I blew up its sack. Okay, great. It's now going to. It's not just like, oh, now I'm just going to do melee. Now it's like doing a bunch of other stuff that like I did not anticipate it doing at all.
Yeah.
And it's great. Yeah. I'm having such a great time with like just like the world, the open world. Like I said, it's a masterclass in like just the ability of just like being able to explore the world, not just at your own pace, but also at your own like with the HUD customization, for example, at your own comfort. Like how comfortable do you want to be? Like I found myself not wanting to be very comfortable. I want my HUD almost completely off most of the time. I don't have I don't have a compass up ever. I'm digging just like kind of like the raw aspect of this world, and I feel myself just getting completely lost into it, where like honestly I have not meant to keep degenerate hours since I left my job. But Horizon Zero Dawn has pushed me into keeping degenerate hours, because before I know it, it's 4:30 in the morning. And I've told myself several times, I'll just do this one last thing. I'll just do this one last thing.
Yeah.
One last thing, one more fight, one more shot at this like thing.
Oh, there's an icon on the map that's unknown. I can just run up and grab that real quick.
Yeah, run up. What is it? Oh, it's this thing. It's part of a quest. I'll just do the quest real quick. It won't be connected to anything. It's fine.
Yeah,
just all of that. All like earlier today, I was like, oh, what's that over there? Oh, it's like Salt Bite. I've never been to Salt Bite. I heard some like it's got some or not. Yeah, Salt Bite. Not Salt Bite. It was oh, what's this? The quest is Deluge. Okay, they haven't like sent anybody for water. I wonder what's happening up there. It'll be real quick. It'll be fine. I spent 40 minutes clearing out and rescuing people up in that quest line. Not really spoilers. It's like, I'm not going to go, like, there's no details about it that are particular, like, impactful to the story at all.
Yeah.
But it's like, you do a rescue mission there, and it's just, like, super unique, super different. Like, at one point, I got caught under the world, because I bugged out under the world. Because, like, when this massive thing shifted, it literally pushed Aloy under the world. And so I had to like figure out a way to get out of that. And I did.
Yeah. It
was great, man. I've been having just such a blast with it. I find myself like right now, I am much more in the mood for a game like Forbidden West than Elden Ring. Not like, and I didn't want to put that out on Twitter and be like, oh, so people would not conflate. Like I prefer one or the other, but Forbidden West it's hitting so many different levels for me right now. Like I told you when we went to dinner, it's hitting like a sci-fi, like sci-fi storytelling that I did not know I needed right now. Like I did not know that I needed a like cool sci-fi story right now that had like all these different elements to it. And it's providing me a lot of stuff that I didn't know I wanted right now. And it's doing that in spades. And I can't stop loving how much fun I'm having in this game. And it's great. And like I said, the characters are super memorable this time around. They brought back some like, you know, fan favorite characters to keep going. But they're all like dealing with their own thing, and it's all happening. And it's a great, like, one of my favorite parts about it is like, this is kind of like an overarching thing, not really a spoiler, is Aloy is learning how not to be alone. She is learning how to, as somebody who is an outcast, she is learning how to build up a group of people around her.
Yeah.
And I love how real they are about how bad she is at it.
Yeah. She
Like,
is failing it. She's trying to build a community, but like she's not actively trying, and so when the community just kind of like forms around her, she's resistant to it, and she butts heads with members in ways where it's like your life would be so much easier if you didn't do this.
yeah. And she thing is she's making like wrong decisions, and it's
Mhm.
great. And like for all the people who criticized Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn for being like a Mary Sue in the world, like bowing to her, etc. Like I think this is a great contrast to it, where it's like Aloy's not like Aloy's. They're like, oh, everybody loves Aloy. It's like, no, people like that Aloy's just willing to do stuff for her. Aloy herself is not a people person, and it's made very clear, like in her interactions with people who are her friends,
Mhm.
like people who she considers trusted comrades and friends, and she will like ice them out at a moment's notice.
There's
And it's
there's the myth of Aloy that like all of the random NPCs are like, "Oh, you're the savior of Meridian. You're gonna help me," and every time she's like, "Aloy's fine. You don't need to like.
and
I
it's
don't
not
need
her
those
being
titles or
humble.
whatever."
And it's not her being like, oh, I'm uncomfortable with success. It's I do not like seeing somebody who has like social anxiety
Mhm.
deal with fame, and like it's like such a great thing for her character, because it is like it is unrealistic to expect somebody who was an outcast for 20 years of their life to all of a sudden just be like this tremendous charismatic people person.
Yeah.
People are amazed by what she does. They're not amazed by who she is as a person.
Yeah.
And a great example of that is like in the first game is the Sun King, who is just like enamored with her, and then she like shuts him down, and then like when you meet him in this game, it's, once again, it's not really spoilers, but like that comes up, and it's like you get to choose how you want to like Aloy's relationship with the Sun King to be.
Mhm.
And it's fun. It's fun to like approach how they wanted to approach it, bring back characters, and like remind people like, yeah, people like Aloy because she's a good person. She has a strong moral compass. In a world that it's really hard to do the right thing, she chooses to do the right thing no matter how hard it is. And that's just who she is as a character. Because, and part of that's a big part of that is because of who raised her. Rost is that's exactly who Rost was.
Yeah.
Which shout out to Rost, because they do that. They help me some good in this game, and I love it.
Yep.
When they bring like when he comes back up in topic conversations, I'm just like, I forgot how cool Rost was.
Mhm. I mean,
Between
like,
being
because yeah, you don't
yeah,
get a lot of time with him in the original game. It's like all of the time that was spent that Aloy spent with him, like obviously growing up and stuff. We get glimpses of that throughout the game, but like most of the original Horizon, he dies very early on in that game, and you don't get like a ton of time with him after that. So
but the thing about it is like she carries his weight. She
yeah.
quotes him a lot, and it's great to see that. And that's in Horizon Zero Dawn as well as in this game. And she like, but like one of the things I love is because the beginning of Horizon Zero Dawn, he like Ross is like enamored with baby Aloy, and he's like super like loving to this infant. And then as soon as she's like a little girl, he's like, like get out of the mud, like boot camp dad. And it's like great. I love it. No, but part of it is because he was preparing her to like be tough enough to like he
To
had his
survive.
intentions
Like,
survive.
like you we are alone. We can't rely on others, so you got to rely on yourself. You got to be strong.
We're outcasts. Like I will not step in unless I know your life is legitimately in danger. Even if it's hard for you, even if it like breaks your bones, I'm going to like I'll mend your bones afterwards. But I will let you break them. And it's like that's a tough parent, but it was a tough world, and he prepared her for it. And it's been great to see her also like shout out to Ross just being like a death seeker and like all sorts of stuff about like you learn about his character later on in Zero Dawn. Which is just great. I love Ross's entire character, his arc, his backstory, like what he does with Aloy. The fact that like, his last words to Aloy aren't "I love you" or like this, like I'm actually this caring, loving father. It's survive.
Yeah.
Like
it's the actual helpful information.
Yeah, it's Ross was a realist. It's like I could tell you how much I love you. I could tell you this, but listen, I'm literally giving my life for you, so you know that I love you. But also like survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want you to survive. That's what I want. And it's like that's a great parent. I love Ross, and it's just like because so much of Aloy, like end of Zero Dawn and the beginning of this game, is like her identity as this clone, as this like this connection to like a quote unquote mother that she's never known that she had
Mhm.
type thing is then like counterbalanced with like how she was raised and like remembering Rost in a like in
Yeah.
an equal way.
I
It
mean,
was just so great.
there's a nature versus nurture kind of like argument throughout the
Hmm.
game, both with like how Aloy is raised versus how other characters kind of exist, but also like it's also in the broader sense, like kind of what we were touching on a little bit earlier with like the difference between like the Karja and the Tanuk, like both of those wildly
Tanakh, you
militaristic
mean?
societies. Sorry.
Tanakh?
Yeah, sorry, Tanakh. Yeah, I mixed up the Tanakh and the Banuk.
And the Banuk,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, the Tanakh. Like both of them militaristic based societies, but like because of what they were around and how their societies kind of like like grew up around those elements, very much kind of set them down different paths. And so there's the world around them, I think, is also a major player in all these characters' lives and stuff. And yeah, just lots of good stuff. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, my real final thoughts about Horizon is like like I talked to you before on Wednesday, when we went to dinner, about like hopping into Frozen Wild immediately made me remember the world and how much I loved it and how much I loved Aloy as a character. I'm so glad I did that because coming back into Forbidden West and being able to jump right into her story was phenomenal. And I've had just such a great time with Aloy as a character, her journey, her story. It's been phenomenal. I've loved every moment of it. I can't recommend it enough. Like we are living in a truly blessed time to have both Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West in our hands at the same time.
There you go. Good
Well, sorry, the
games.
opportunity to have them in our hands at the same
Yeah.
time. Trevor will not be taking that opportunity
Yeah, I
away
was
from
gonna say good games all around if you like those kinds of games. Well, yeah, that is gonna do it for this episode of That Nerdy Site Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to discuss Pokemon, Elden Ring, and Horizon Forbidden West. You can follow Cam at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
for sure. And I didn't want to bring it up at the top of the show because I didn't want to be too like this is something that easily could dominate and be a topic of a show, and it's not, Dig Dug or something like that. It's not gaming wise, but want to be a big take a big moment here to say shout out two things. One, shout out to all the actions that people are taking to resist the recent decision in Texas in regards to trans children and being like basically the state saying that gender affirming care is illegal and child abuse. The people fighting against that, fighting back, making progress in a really like feeling of a hopeless situation. There's tons of charities, tons of things going around, but I want to give a massive shout out to Uppercut, who is doing a fundraiser right now. Last I saw, they just passed $1,600, but they are raising it for one of those funds out there. If there's one that you think is you prefer, go for that. But please be aware of the situation in Texas, and because these are children who will be at risk, and we want to help them as best we can. And that's on a domestic front. On a more international front, for anybody out there who is a listener who is Ukrainian or knows I guess that's a weird way to put it. Anybody who knows Ukrainians. But for anybody out there who's Ukrainian or needs help, there is a lot of resources available as well if you want to help out people of Ukraine who are being displaced or who need help on some way. Um, you know, there are definitely outreach programs, UNICEF, other places like that that are doing what they can to help those people who are fleeing their home, which is being attacked by a greedy I don't want to say gremlin or goblin because he's a tall person, but like absolute monster of a human being. In Vladimir Putin, who's doing nothing but just just expressing through his own ego as his empire is falling around him. Um, and it's putting a lot of people in, it's costing lives and it's putting people in danger and unfortunately displacing people as well. So anything you can do to help out our friends and fellow both gamers and human beings over in Ukraine, massive shout out to those efforts as well. So
Indeed, yeah. Fuck Greg Abbott. Fuck Vladimir Putin. Just let people live
yeah,
their
can I just
lives.
say sharing a last name with that dude fucking sucks.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, especially because like I don't think like we're related in any way. There's a lot of different ways that you get the last name Abbott. But if he is related to me, then fuck him. As a cousin, I'll kick his ass.
There you go.
Because if I'm his cousin, then I can kick his ass even if he's in a wheelchair because we're family.
Sure. Yeah, that's how that works.
I don't think it is, but I'll fucking do it. I'll drop kick them, motherfucker. I don't care.
You always go weird places, Cam. You can follow me at
Trevor. I am the weird place.
At Trevor J Starkey. I will just echo kind of all that. Yeah, lots of resources, lots of people hurting right now. So help if you are able. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.